Welcome back, my fellow agents. It is I, X7, your host of Zenorama, the podcast of heroes and monsters, and also the co-host of GD Explanations. So check it out. It's got new content every week, sometimes twice a week. Spoiler alert, we're going to be doing 2 episodes a week shortly in the near future. However, today we're going to be talking about The Space Children, which is a movie that Jack Arnold did. And this is the second time I've watched it. Of course, got it from the Internet Archive. But before we get too much further into it, please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. What do you think about this Space Brain movie that the children, there are certain movies it calls to mind, and not just ones about children. But just let me know in the comments. And if you could watch this a little longer than usual, that'd be great. All right, let's roll. That brain is not a space brain, but he could have been. Anyway, and also these space children are not these space children. Those are the space cadets. Although one is called Snoopy or Snooper, and the dog is actually Pupstar. Go figure. Anyway, let's get into the movie here. There's our title card. Now, this movie itself was released in June of 1958, and had a pretty great cast and a good script. It's based on the book called The Egg, or the story called The Egg by Tom Filer, and directed by Jack Arnold, and it runs a whopping 69 minutes. That little girl there who plays Edie is very famous. That is Sandy Desher. You'll remember her, and we will see her shortly in the coming weeks, because this really does start the Halloween season. We're going to have some scarier movies. We might stay away from sci-fi a little bit, but super scary sci-fi, to quote Count Floyd. But that little girl there is Sandy Desher, who plays Edie Johnson. She was also the girl at the very beginning of the movie Them, which is why we'll see her shortly. Directed by Jack Arnold, and we start out with the Brewster family on their way to somewhere down south of San Francisco. They're working on the Thunderer. The wife there, who is Ann Brewster, played by Peggy Weber, is not particularly happy about having to move. She's worked a lot. She was Lady Macbeth. Well, in the Screaming Skull, Greatest Story of Dragnet. Wouldn't surprise me if she was also on, of course, she was in Dragnet 1967 as well. Night Gallery, Adam 12, Project UFO, Bosom Buddies. Oh, it's Dr. Fritzley. I love Bosom Buddies. Anyway, that's her workaday husband, Adam Williams, as Dave Brewster, who is really very much an everyman and not a particularly macho He-Man. So a veteran bad guy. I'm looking to see if Darby's Rangers, North by Northwest, Twilight Zones. I'm trying to see if I've seen him in anything else, but I don't think so. Anyway. So then there's the kids. Michael Ray as Bud Brewster, and then who's little Brewster? Does he get? Oh, Ken Brewster, Johnny Crawford. He was a Mouseketeer. I don't know if it says Mitchell, but the Brave One, Tin Star, and Lawrence of Arabia. Huh. But anyway, that's him right there. So there they are. I love the way this is shot. You can tell it's Jack Arnold just because of the way it's shot. I don't know who his cinematographer was, but Ernest Laszlo did a great job with the budget he's given. The boys hear a strange sound, but no one else can hear. But there's a light. Eagle Point. That's not a real place, but and look at that big old car, man, 10 miles, and he's got a half tank of gas. Of course, it stops when the light shows up because, UFOs used to do that to cars. They check their credentials. once again, uh, Anne's not Anne's not particularly happy of being here. She'd rather be in San Francisco. But his government assignment is going to make his his career. Although who knows what happens after this? Let's see. That's Mrs. Johnson, I believe, who. I'm just looking here if that's. Yep. Okay. Her husband, Mrs. Johnson, is not in here. Oh well, sorry, Mrs. Johnson. And the boys are out playing when they find a cave, and there's Edie. Her name is Sandy. Her name is Edie. Yeah, Sandy Drescher is Edie. They meet, and all the other kids show up, and she introduces the other kids to them. I did that on purpose. And this is a nice matte shot here, or because that's a miniature, of course. But I really like the way it looks. That's the Thunderer, which is a 6-stage rocket. It's going to be able to shoot down rockets from from space if they are launched against the United States. Big old nuclear warhead. Sounds like something that was invented in the 80s too, doesn't it? There's our cast of grown-ups. The Colonel, the kids are all watching. There's see the light again, and there is the Dr. Warman, Raymond Bailey, and our Colonel. That's actually I don't know who that is off the top of my head. There's a lot of grown-ups. They kind of merge together. We've got Lieutenant Colonel Richard Shannon, and then Larry Pennell as Major Thomas, Peter Baldwin, Security Officer James, Ty Harden as Sentry. So we're having a cookout so the kids can get to know each other, even though they already know each other. Here is Jackie Coogan as Hank Johnson in his cool swim trunks. That's Uncle Fester. Uncle Fester. Keep that in mind. Uh-oh. It's the professor, who is the drunk Joe Gamble, who is the stepfather to Temma Gamble, played by Joe Washbrook, who gives off a bit of a bully vibe, but he was in Ken McLaughlin in My Friend Flicka. But he kind of here reminds me of Scott Farkas from A Christmas Story. But that's his wife, who doesn't like him very much anyway. Peg Gamble, Jean Engstrom. Does she have, yeah. Actually, that might be the mom. Anyway, the kids are running off. We're going to go swimming, but now they got to go talk to the brain. Yes, and there it is. The brain. Is it an evil brain from outer space, or is it a good brain from outer space? We don't know. Timmy tries to break it, or tries to kill it with a rock, and then it just disintegrates it, and then he succumbs to its authority. They all get home about 9 o'clock, and Dad yells at him, and he says, "Okay, Dad, you gotta." And little, where did Ken Brewster says, "You gotta tell him, Bud. You gotta tell him." And everyone goes out. Edie goes with him. Timmy goes out, but his drunken stepfather got a beer there. Follows him, threatens him. He grabs him. The brain zaps him. So Russell Johnson, the professor, can now go on his 3-hour tour if he wants to, because he falls down, runs away. And then old Dave Brewster sees the brain. He's an engineer. Takes it home. And then Timmy goes into his place, and there's his drunken stepfather with some, but he's dead. DED dead. And they're not unhappy. Peg is not unhappy, and neither is Tim. Why Tim would have the same name as, why would have taken his idiot stepfather's last name is beyond me. But all right, so there they go. There he shows the ambulance shows up. So this movie is really quickly done. I mean, it's compact. It doesn't really. I mean, we don't know why the brain is there yet, but the kids it won't talk to the grown-ups for some reason. He's got to go to work. Uncle Fester wants to take him with him, but he says, no, I've got to go find my kids. So he's been there one day and he's already delinquent for work. He's not even gone to work. So they're taking the brain back to the cave. It's gotten bigger and kind of uglier, really. And they're getting ready to launch everything. There's the colonel and the press who are just asking questions. How's it going to work? And Dave has decided to tell him about the brain, but the kids show up, getting by security real easily. Of course, they do have preternatural powers granted to them by the brain. Yes, none of them's well, Uncle Fester's probably the pinky of the group. Look at all that hardware. And Dave kind of has a little meltdown, and they keep him there overnight. And she's all worried, but I mean, she's really shrill. She's not very likable overall. And neither are none of the grown-up. Well, actually, the doc is pretty likable, and the general's all right, or the colonel's all right. The kids cause a traffic accident while they're eating their fudgicles, and Uncle Fester's looking for Edie. There she is. She tries to say, "Let's go swimming," but Uncle Fester sees a glowing brain from outer space, freaks out. There you can see the Uncle Fester in him, but that's his big action move where he stumbles into the sand. Oh my gosh, he's so great. But dig those swim trunks. I mean, you know they're lions. They're tiger stripes. They're not just zebras. They're tiger stripes. If this was in color. And the kids are all out. They're wearing different. At least they wear different clothes. They don't wear the same clothes the whole episode, the whole movie. Off they go. The brain is pretty big now. See, there's a great shot of it. And the doc is trying to figure out what any of this has in common, and then says it's the kids. I just like these signs here. Gate 2. The kids walk right by with no one seeing them. They've got a cloaking device that the brain gave them. They undo the lock, but then it locks itself back up. So they go and see the brain and try to communicate with it, and it's gigantic now. And it's like, it makes me wonder how it's getting. It started out so small, but I mean, were the lights giving it energy? We just don't know. I just like these shots here. They're counting down, T minus 60. Kids get yelled at. And it's like, how did this get open? And like, we didn't open it. So everybody's watching now. This is the launch of the Thunderer. And if you know Marvel Comics or Timely Comics, the Thunderer had a sonic voice cry or something. Liked his name, though. But the Thunderer blows up. We're toward the end of the movie here. Finally, Dave and the Colonel and the Doc go out there to confront the alien, and the grown-ups, they've got guns and everything, and they're going to kill it, I guess. And look at this, the wall of children. 7 children face them down. I mean, because they'd had to mow down their own kids, and they're not going to do that. The brain, I don't know if it crawls out, but it flashes, off it goes. And they're like, goodbye. And apparently this happened all over the world. In Beijing and Russia, and they named several other countries. And they're like, why? Will it come back? We don't know. We don't know. That's what he's saying. And they're like, okay, well, but it didn't try to hurt anyone. It just stopped us from blowing each other apart in 1958. We fade out. We get a quote here from St. Matthew I believe that's probably a King James mistranslation. Which, are you sure you want to go? But be that as it may, that's our movie for this Sunday. Tomorrow will be the last 4 episodes of Johnny Quest from the 80s. And then I think we're going to see something very savage and draconic in the following week. All right, my fellow agents, this is X7. And until our next assignment, I'm signing off and phasing out.
Torment of sheer shock as vampires, demons, and ghouls meet the hideous wolf monster. in Frankenstein's Bloody Terror. Don't miss Frankenstein's Bloody Terror. It's a super shock spectacle of hideous horror in Chillerama 70 and gory color. Rated GP.